This is a Fox News alert. News from the President of the United States that there has been an attack inside Iran. Just moments ago, President Donald Trump putting out on Truth Social, we have completed our very successful attack on 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. All planes are now outside of Iran airspace. Again, this from President Donald Trump. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors. There is not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Again, that's just seconds ago from President Donald Trump on Truth Social, suggesting that those B-2 bombers that perhaps were on the way may have been behind this. We'll get more details on these 3 sites that the president said has been attacked inside Iran. This comes after days of negotiations to try to get Iran to the negotiating table. The President of the United States saying it would have to be unconditional surrender, saying enrichment would have to stop. We heard from negotiations in Europe that that was not being accepted by the Iranians, that they would not stop enriching uranium. There was a thought that this could go as long as 2 weeks, as the president said he would decide within 2 weeks. However, 2 days is within 2 weeks. And now word from President Donald Trump that these attacks have happened. Again, interesting that 3 sites have been struck by U.S. bombers. And this, again, we'll get more information about the exact targets and what bombs were used. We expect that the GBU-57, the bunker buster, the massive penetrator bomb, may have been one of those used. Fordo is a nuclear facility inside Iran that is roughly a half-mile deep underneath a rock mountain-like facility that has been said to be the site of a lot of the enrichment capability. Esfahan, believed to be a storage facility for enriched uranium, and Natanz, another part of the nuclear facilities. They have several throughout Iran. It has been long described as a very difficult and tedious effort to go after these nuclear sites, but the U.S. for the first time launching an attack inside Iran. Again, the President of the United States saying all of the planes are out of Iranian airspace. The bombings do continue by the Israelis inside Iran as this back and forth volley between Israel and Iran has continued for some 2 weeks. We expect to hear more about this operation, not only from the Pentagon, but perhaps from the White House. Although,
all right, so obviously this was breaking news from last night, where President Donald Trump posted something huge on Truth Social, basically saying the United States has bombed 3 nuclear sites inside Iran. The targets were Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. Trump said the mission was a total success and that all U.S. planes are now safely out of Iran. And this is real. It's not a rumor or a leak report. The U.S. just carried out one of the most serious military actions we've seen in years, and the world is watching closely. So what was actually hit? I want to break it down from a childlike perspective so we all on the same page here and then have a conversation. So Fordo is one of Iran's most secret and protected nuclear sites and is built deep underground inside of a mountain. And this facility is used to enrich I can't talk, enrich uranium, which is a big step towards building a nuclear bomb. Hitting Fordo is a direct move against Iran's nuclear program. Then there is Natanz, another well-known nuclear facility, and has been watched by international inspectors for years. By targeting Natanz, the U.S. just took out a key piece of Iran's enrichment system. The third target, Esfahan, is believed to be used for storing enriched uranium and possibly developing nuclear weapons. Destroying Esfahan sends a strong message that the U.S. is serious about stopping Iran's entire nuclear program, not just slowing it down. And to hit these targets, the U.S. likely used the GB-57 bunker and buster bomb. This bomb is designed to drill deep underground before exploding, and is made to destroy targets that normal bombs can't even touch. And that tells us that the US wasn't guessing. They knew exactly what they were going after and they came prepared. Now let's talk about what Trump actually said, because he called that strike successful, and thanks to the US military for their work. He even said now is a time for peace. And that's an interesting message, because calling for peace right after launching a bombing mission can seem confusion, right? But this is how Trump operates. He uses strength to send a message. He's not trying to start a long war, he's trying to end the problem quickly. And in this case, he gave Iran a choice: stop enriching uranium or face serious consequences. Iran refused, so Trump followed through. This wasn't a slow buildup, it happened fast. Just 2 days ago, people were saying it might take 2 weeks to make a decision. But Trump moved quickly, and now here we are. And to understand how we got to this point, let's rewind a bit, because over the past few weeks, the US and its allies were trying to get Iran to stop enriching in uranium. They wanted Iran to agree to new terms, no strings attached, but Iran said no. They refused to give up their nuclear work. And at the same time, Israel was already launching attacks on Iranian targets, including high ranking military officials. Iran responded, and then the back and forth kept getting worse, but the US publicly said it wasn't involved and that Iran shouldn't blame them. Now, this looks like that was a distraction, because behind the scenes, the US was preparing for something big, as we see. And when diplomacy failed, meaning working together, they acted. And that brings us the bigger issue. Why is the US so tied to Israel in the first place? Some people say it's about shared values, democracy, religion, or history. Others say it's about politics and military strategy. Either way, the US and Israel has been close allies for a long time, but this alliance also causes problems. And I want to get you guys' perspective down in the comments. Why is the US, because I'm still trying to wrap my mind of why is the US tied to Israel in the first place so much? Because some Americans worry that we're getting pulled into conflicts that don't help us directly, like a war, and that our support for Israel puts us in the middle of every fight that they're in. And in this case, Israel acted first, then the US followed, and it makes people wonder, are we making our own decisions, or are we just backing Israel no matter what? Now, we have to look at what might happen next, and this is where things get serious. Iran warned the US not to get involved, and that warning was ignored. So now we have to be ready for what could come next. And there's talks about Iran using sleeper cells, secret agents who could be hiding in the other countries, waiting to attack. There's also the risk of cyber attacks or more violence in the Middle East. And what about the major powers like Russia and China? Both countries have supported Iran in the past, and if they decided to step in, even with just words or weapons, this could go from a regional fight to a global crisis. And some experts are saying this is how World War III starts. Others say no, and this is how you prevent a nuclear Iran by acting now. And they believe the US avoided a much bigger problem later. But that's the thing. No one really knows what comes next. Meanwhile, here at home, Americans are split. Americans are split. Some are cheering. They say this was the right move, strong, fast, and clear. And they think Trump showed leadership by not backing down. Others are worried that they didn't vote for more war. They don't want to see Americans live lives risk or billions spent on long conflict in the Middle East. And they're asking, was this worth it? Even people who usually disagree are finding common ground, like those who support Bernie Sanders. He's been against U.S. involvement in wars for years. And now people on both sides are saying the same thing. We don't want to go down this road again. There's also confusion about who are we really supporting. Some liberals are being accused of siding with Iran, but most of them are just against war. And that doesn't mean they support the Iranian government. It means they want smarter decisions, not more bombs. And at the end of the day, most people feel stuck in the middle. They don't trust Iran, but they're also not sure if this was the best way to handle it. The public is divided, and that division could make things even harder moving forward. So, where does this leave us? Right now, we're in a very serious moment. The world is tense. Anything could happen next. And what the US did wasn't just about Iran. It was about power. It was about sending a message. But the question now is, what message will come back? And we have to stay alert. We have to stay smart. Don't just listen to the headlines. Ask questions, look deeper, and watch what other countries do. But pay attention to what leaders are saying and what they are not saying. And most of all, stay informed. And the thing is that now that I gave you the overall sentiment about what individuals are saying from both perspectives, from a Republican and a Democratic side, and people just giving their opinion all overall, my opinion is this, right? And I want to substantiate my point by sharing this next video after give you guys my opinion on this whole thing,
Right
right?
now, a quick live
So
look at the
let me
Pentagon.
pause that. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, we're going to war. Well, we all know that history repeats itself. There's always been wars. Wars happened in the Bible, if you're a Christian, and for the righteous reasons, for things to be the right way. Because enemies take over and, wicked minds, get powerful and then they use their power in a wicked way, which is retaliating against people and doing some of the most unhumane things, right? So in the Bible, history took place. Also, history repeats itself and wars happen. That's just part of life. Like wars happen. It costs a lot of money, yes. Does it cost a lot of bloodshed? Yes, unfortunately. But where I'm going at here, family, is not to condone in war because I want peace and I don't want war for the US. But then we can't act like Trump didn't give Iran about like 60 days or so forth to have peace talks and asked them, like I mentioned earlier, about, do not develop a nuclear weapon. And Trump ran on this in his campaign for years about Iran doesn't need a nuclear weapon. That is powerful. How many times have we have seen other countries go against the United States because at the end of the day they want to supersede the United States and become the most powerful and overthrow the United States because of envy, because of all the resources and the beauty of freedom and all the perks that the United States of America come with. So, however, they always try to develop and come against overthrowing and going against America as an enemy. We talk about China. We talking from the Holocaust. We talking from, unfortunately, rest in peace to those individuals. And my heart goes out to those families from the 9/11 attacks when it came to Osama bin Laden and the extremist group Al Qaeda over there in Israel. So my point that I'm making is individuals, America will always have enemies. And yes, we be diplomatic and we also have a trade agreement with China, who we just seen that China was basically stealing from resources and learning in regards of the chips, right? The technology chips, so they can go over there and develop faster with their manufacturing base to then take over American jobs and sell and pour into America cheaper products, which then takes over American jobs because now if they're selling their product over here at a faster, cheaper rate, then that those American businesses out of business. Also, the products that America have, you know, America is making is not being very valued because people want quick and convenience, but at the cost of what? Because if it's a cheap product and it's being marketed through Temu and Sheen and all this to be a great product, and people just looking for convenience and affordability and things being cheap, then it puts the American businesses out of business because now those things in the American mind that we think is good quality, we are basically at the detriment of basically getting our businesses in America taken away due to the cost of convenience, even at a cheaper quality, because China has made a processing made with technology in the chips that they have learned and got the education from America and did it at a faster rate to then pour products in here faster than we can make it, even though we have the better quality, right? So even with the trade thing, yeah, we can rely on China and partner together for extra resources, but we should be making our own resources because China is for China. China going to have their extra resources. China going to have their resources, but they're going to gain extra resources by benefiting off of America because the more they pour their products into America at a faster rate, they make more money to enrich their country, but we weren't putting tariffs on them to tax them when they come to shipping their products here. But if we ship a product over there, we have to not only be taxed by China, but also invest in China. So my point is, there has always been a way behind the scenes to backstab America, even not just from even from a trade standpoint, but also from a national security standpoint. They play like our friends, but really they want to overthrow America because we are the most powerful. So we have to look out for America. And that's what Trump is doing. And the thing is, if you want to take a deeper step, last year Biden have issued airstrikes in Ukraine. In 2014, Obama had issued airstrikes in Iraq. So the point I'm making is, just because it's not like President Trump was the first and only president who ever issued airstrikes, that doesn't prelude or start a war or necessarily say that it is going to be a war. But this is the burden of leadership. You have to make a strong decision. And in this case, Donald Trump has made his mind up and had his mind already made up to protect another country from not having a nuclear weapon to try to wipe out the United States from a national security standpoint, when we already have dealt with individuals like Osama bin Laden, extremists like that, who basically had bombs and had these powerful weapons and was taking airplanes and going into a building that created 9/11 in the first place. So we could prevent a nuclear weapon, which Trump asked them not to create, but they said, nah, Iran said, nah, we still going to develop it. Then that puts our country, America, at stake, because if that nuclear bomb takes place to possibly wipe out everybody, then what? To overthrow the United States of America. So yes, we keep our enemies closer. We also trade and we work together from a diplomatic standpoint by exchanging resources, but we shouldn't be necessarily relying and to be a lifeline when it comes to trading with other countries, because we are not a lifeline to them. It's just extra resources to benefit from them from a capitalistic perspective. But to substantiate my point when it comes to the Osama bin Laden, now you wonder why I say that Donald Trump had to make the hard decision, because two things could be true at once. One, we don't want a war, but two, we don't want to be wiped out in another country trying to make a nuclear weapon to possibly overthrow us as a country. And they're not even talking peace. They like, nah, we going to keep developing. So now we got major cities like New York and Los Angeles ramping up high security, because then it still propels the simple fact that, going back to my 9/11 example, unfortunately, my heart goes out to those individuals and those families, and rest in peace to those unfortunate victims. And that was an unhumane thing with Osama bin Laden and Al Qaeda. But the thing is, they're ramping up high security because Iran, we already knew not what they were going to do, but they kept developing this nuclear weapon. So why not let Donald Trump prevent something like a nuclear weapon to possibly bomb the United States of America or anything? Because they're not talking peace. They can do anything sporadically at a time. So why should we wait instead of taking the action to wipe out that development? So it's not even a possibility anymore. So we do not have incidents like a 9/11 where sporadic attacks happen throughout the country, killing innocent bystanders and innocent Americans. And they are basically feeling validated or cheering on the simple fact that they're trying to destroy America. So here goes a clip of major cities ramping up. And it goes to my point of why they're ramping up security, because it substantiated my point when it comes to Osama bin Laden and 9/11. We don't want attacks like that happening ever again. So to prevent it, why not get rid of it before it even happens, and then ramp up security and even take more precaution and so forth? Check it out.
Right now, a quick live look at the Pentagon, where we are waiting for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who will brief us on these strikes. Major cities across the U.S., meanwhile, are on high alert following Saturday night's airstrikes targeting nuclear sites in Iran. Law enforcement agencies issuing security advisories and deploying additional forces to locations sensitive to retaliatory Iranian attacks. News Nation's Marcus Espinoza is live in front of the NYPD headquarters in New York City. Marcus, I know the area you're in very well. Good morning. Give us a sense of what's happening where you are and, of course, other cities across the country.
Henna, good morning. Yeah, all is calm right now, but the New York Police Department, the largest city police department in the country, certainly on high alert right now for what they're calling soft targets. Basically, your churches, your synagogues, things like that, places where there potentially could be a threat after the actions that the United States took yesterday in Iran. That, of course, now is garnering a bit of a fear that something could happen here, and police departments are well aware of the fact that what happened internationally could affect folks here on the ground. So not just the New York Police Department, really police departments across the country really getting out ahead of this and trying to let folks know to be vigilant, to be aware. The New York Police Department putting out a tweet as well, if we can bring that up in just a second here, basically acknowledging this and making it very, very clear that they are aware of what is happening here and that they would like to do everything they can to keep everybody safe, says the
Now listen to that. It says, we are tracking the situation unfolding in Iran. Out of abundance of caution, we're deploying additional resources to religious, cultural, and diplomatic sites across New York City and coordinating with our federal partners. Now, this is how extreme it is, because now why are we watching out for Americans if Iran was so peaceful of a approach? Because Iran was never peaceful. So now we're watching out for diplomatic sites where people come together to protect Americans because they were never trying to intentionally be peaceful. They wanted to obviously interject chaos and continue to develop their nuclear weapon and start and be problematic from the beginning. You cannot approach someone who has already premeditated in their mind to be problematic and go against you and come at you from every angle and continue to develop, to the simple fact that they never came with peace in the first place. You cannot approach someone at peace. You cannot approach someone peacefully and they're not at peace and they're just trying to ignite chaos. So the simple fact is you have to neutralize the whole thing, right? For example, I'll give you an example. Like for police, right? When it comes to someone coming with a blade or whatever with force, they have to be one notch ahead, basically having something powerful over top of that blade, meaning they have to have a weapon that supersedes the blade to neutralize the whole thing, to get rid of it, so it's not a threat to others in the community, let alone a police officer, right? Let's take another example. A bully. If a bully is already anticipating to bully you, there's no peace to be talked, because at the simple fact they want to bully you at any way they can and they want to continue. You cannot stop a bully from trying to beat up a kid if they already have in a mind, even though if the kid approaches with peace, to not bully them. So you have to get rid of the bully in regards of holding them accountable and making them have consequences and say, hey, now are you ready for peace? Because obviously they got to see from being a hardhead the consequences of being a bully. And is this the road you really want to go down? Because you got to neutralize the whole thing to get rid of the bully. Because, however, it does no good. You cannot negotiate with people like this, is my point I'm making. So now we are watching out to protect ourselves, Americans, from people who intentionally never came with peace and approached with peace in the first place, like President Trump. Let me know you guys' thoughts down in the comments. I know I said a lot. I'm just giving off my thoughts and I just want to have a conversation. However, spread that peace, love, and positivity. Let the love supersede the hate. Stay safe. And at the end of the day, stay informed. Peace.